7, wasteful spending must be eliminated. Fraud connected with government spending costing many billions a year needs to be controlled. For example, in Medicare alone, 50 to 60 billion a year is wasted through fraud. Now our benevolent government says, look, we're going to pass this new health care bill, and one of the ways we're going to pay for it is we're going to take that 50, 60 billion a year that's wasted through fraud, and we're going to find that fraud, and we're going to eliminate it, and then we're going to take this 50, 60 billion a year, and we're going to use this to pay for our bill. Well, my question is, why didn't they do that earlier? If they can do it now, why come they couldn't do it a year ago? Why do they have to pass a bill to do it? Well, we all know that they're not going to cut down the fraud. They don't know how to. And so that extra money is just going to come out of our pocket, leading to more spending. It's just a way to get their will passed upon the American people. 8, the national debt must cease to grow, as we will soon not be able to afford the interest, and it will eventually bankrupt this nation. We must focus on reducing the national debt. We've let this go too far, and don't you think the majority of the people do not like this national debt that we have? This is something, now as I said, each one of these points I believe strongly is supported by not just a small majority, but quite a strong majority of the people. Strong majority on both sides, Democrat, Republican, nobody likes this heavy-duty national debt. I'd say a good 70, 80% of the people understand that if we go too far in debt, it could result in a tremendous calamity. 9, stop all unnecessary subsidies, like to farmers, corporations, businesses, where the government subsidizes their business. We don't need to do this. Let them rise and fall according to their own merits. I heard somewhere that the subsidized farmers that get millions of dollars, most of these farmers that get subsidies are millionaires themselves. Farmers are taken over by large corporations, and so the large corporations that already have a lot of money are getting a lot of the subsidies paid to farmers. It doesn't really help the little guy. It used to help the little guy quite some time ago, but even the little guy needs to rise or fall by his own merits. Loans are good, but actual subsidies, the majority of the people just rubs them the wrong way. We condemn our government and agents, all agents involved, for stealing the Social Security surplus and spending it however they feel like. I mean, who owns the Social Security? It's us. We paid into it. It's supposed to, any surplus Social Security is supposed to be there to protect us, and the government's just stolen it and spends it however they feel like. They say they'll pay us back someday. Well, where are they going to get the money from to pay us back the Social Security funds that they've taken from us? And right now, Social Security is in a heap of trouble, but it wouldn't be in any trouble at all if the government hadn't stolen the surplus Social Security funds. 11, the government needs to quit using our Social Security funds for things other than Social Security. So in other words, Social Security funds needs to go to Social Security. It'd be better to, I'm against more taxes, but if they need money for something else, it needs to come from some other source of taxation. Just not, it's silly to rob Peter to pay Paul. 12, Congress has too many perks and needs to be more fiscally responsible on how they spend our money, not so much our money on all the government programs, but I'm talking about how they spend them on themselves. They have a tremendous number of perks. Now, it's understandable that the president needs Air Force One to fly around to different engagements. That's pretty necessary, but like Speaker of the House doesn't really need a private jet to fly back and forth. Many of our Congress people ride on military jets leased just for them when they could fly coach and go back home. They don't even need to fly first class, in my opinion. If they want to fly first class, let them pay for it themselves. But few of them, most of them think it's below their what they want just to fly first class. They think it's below their dignity to do that. And this is totally wrong. Same thing with a lot of other things. They have perks about remodeling their office. They come in and they don't like the way the new office looks, and so they completely remodel it when it's unnecessary. A lot of these perks they have should come out of their own pockets. If we did that, then we would get people in there that want to go in there to serve rather than go in there for the perks. Also, they get a heck of a good retirement program, great medical. You just can't get better perks than being an elected official on the national level. 13, we demand that any economic stimulus not yet spent be put on hold and returned to the people. In other words, so far with this stimulus money, a lot of the stimulus money the jobs created have cost around $1 million or so. I think they've averaged like $250,000 or more a job. It's a tremendous amount. In the private sector, it would have gone much further. And the unemployment rate has just gone up on this stimulus plan, and last I heard, only about half of it's been spent. Well, it'd be a great idea if we just return the second half to the people, since the spending of the first half has been so bad and ineffective. I don't think the second half is going to be much better. 14, the government should cease bailing out private companies. The only exception to this would be a referendum voted on by the people. So in other words, if we're going to bail out somebody like GM, if it's really a good idea, then there should be a referendum, because whose money is bailing them out? It's ours. Because it's our money and because something like that is such a big deal, it should be put to a referendum to the people as a whole. We vote on it, and then let us decide whether or not we want to bail out a big corporation like that. It is remotely possible it could be beneficial. Usually it isn't when something like that happens. Usually the money is wasted. But it's not for one individual to decide something of that import. 15, any of the public's money used to fight global warming or the increase of CO2 must be proven to be cost effective. Only the most cost effective means need to be used. So the scientist I've been reading about has calculated how much, if we did the cap and trade thing and spent all this money on reducing global warming, he calculated that the amount it would reduce the temperature would be just almost insignificant. In other words, now this guy actually believes in global warming. He's behind the scientists and everything, but he's just saying, look, any plan that's been presented so far is just not cost effective. We'd be a lot better off preparing for the changes in climate than trying to change the climate. And boy, this guy was about ostracized from the scientific community. They called him a denier and all kinds of things, and he kept insisting, look, I'm not denying anything, I'm just talking about the actual cost, how the money is spent. And he says the plan we have devised to reduce global warming is not cost effective. And so even though there's a lot of disagreement on global warming, I think the majority would strongly get behind the idea that anything we do to reduce emissions should be cost effective and not destroy our way of life. We probably have about 20 or 30 years if we can continue civilization as is, where we're actually making some progress, before we can switch over to alternative fuels. The day is definitely coming when we're going to make a switch over where most of our fuels will be alternative. But it's going to take a little bit of time. Until that time occurs, we need to not destroy our way of life and our economy, because the progress we make toward alternative fuels is dependent on the economy continuing to be fairly good. If the economy doesn't continue to be fairly good, scientific progress will come to a halt. And if we have to go burn cow chips and firewood for all of our fuel, well, and there's a rush to cut down all the trees just to survive in the winter, well, that's not going to help global warming at all. 16. It is not the responsibilities of the taxpayer to purchase Viagra or similar lifestyle drugs for anyone. Okay, a point can be made that certain drugs, certain people will need help medically and with drugs and so on. There may be certain areas where the public, the majority, would support helping people. But as far as recreational drugs or Viagra or things like this, there's a lot of areas where our representatives want to finance that the majority of the people are just definitely against. 17. Illegal immigrants are not entitled to Social Security benefits. If they want the benefits of this country, then they need to just come in legally and then they can get the benefits. But we don't want to spend money on people that break the law to get here. 18, earmarks need to be discontinued. So any earmark needs to be voted on as an individual piece of legislation. 19, no tax money should be allocated to partisan organizations. Now this upsets people on both sides. If a right-wing cause gets tax money for some purpose, then everybody on the left just screams like crazy, and the same thing happens when people on the left get money for their cause. What we need to do is just eliminate completely taxpayers' money going for to organizations with a political agenda. This just aggravates the majority. Sure, if your side or if you're on the left or the right and your side gets the money, you're happy, but the other side isn't happy. Overall, the majority of the people would really rubs them the wrong way when political organizations get taxpayers' money to further their political agenda. This is something that just shouldn't happen. Okay, we're at number 19. The next section is taxes. That'll be a fun one. And we're going to continue this next week. And we'll go into the additional 85 points where the majority of the people are against what the government is trying to do, not for us, but to us. Thank you.